Hi again. In part 1, we have looked at several structural damage that occurred due to water ingress through the garage area of a particular residence that we were called out to visit. In part 2 of this presentation, we will discuss a series of investigations that we carried out to determine the main cause or causes of water ingress. To quickly recap what we have covered in part 1. We observed water ingress through the lower roof cavity, and further to this, water was also seeping to the underside of the garage brick wall. Unfortunately, we had to deal with two separate issues here. We also discussed the main observations that were made during the site inspection, such as wrongly installed upper load spreader, ceiling plaster crack, moldy skirting boards, moldy insulation, and deteriorating brickwork. In addition to this, we didn't notice any sarcasm paper under the lower roof battens. For water seeping through the lower roof cavity, we suspected the following. Number 1, wrong installation of upper downpipe, load spreader. There were no bends to the load spreader to adequately disperse water on the lower roof tiles. Number 2, there could be possibly a blocked box gutter and downpipes as well. Now, a blocked box gutter or downpipe, that would cause water to overflow into the roof cavity. Number 3, there could be insufficient amount of upper story downpipes installed. That also could cause water to overflow. Number 4, insufficient slope gradient of the box gutter, which means it might not comply with the Australian regulations. We see this happen very often. Sometimes the box gutter installed may be flat or actually grading the opposite way. If that's the case, then water would backflow and would not adequately be collected into the downpipes. For water seeping to the underside of the brick retaining wall, we suspected the following. 1, lack of ground surface drainage provided around the perimeter of the building. Number 2, there were no agriculture drain or any form of swale drain at the bottom of the steep batter to pick up any ground surface water. And there was also no spoon drains observed as well. There was nothing to pick up the water at the bottom of that batter. Number 3, the soil to the underside of the perimeter pavement also appeared to be sloping towards the garage wall, which basically invites water to seep through the lowest point, then accumulates behind the wall. Number 4, waterproofing behind the wall may have failed, or maybe there is no waterproofing at all. Now that is a tricky part, because if we do dig up and check for the waterproofing, it might be a very expensive process, and we want to avoid that at all costs. Number 5, agriculture drain behind the wall may be fully blocked due to inadequate backfill material. Now we must understand that in general, it is important to understand that agriculture drain and backfill material behind the wall is noted by the engineer to just collect the surrounding subsurface water, but not to really take that extra surcharge of water seeping on that surface runoff. Now, number 6, box gutter may also be blocked with leaves and debris, which may cause water to overflow onto the ground below. As you can see in this image we have here, water could possibly overflow from the blocked box gutter onto the ground, and then eventually it will travel to the lowest point, to the underside of the paving, and then behind the wall. Number 7, downpipes on the lower level may not be connected to the stormwater pipes. We see this happen all the time. Sometimes the plumber would unintentionally leave the downpipe not connected, and then we'll leave it right on top of that retaining wall, assuming that water will be collected by the agriculture drain. And this could be a problem, especially with the downpipes that are located upslope of the house. If the downpipes are not connected, then we could have water flowing on the ground, and then it will find its way to the lowest point behind the wall. It's important to connect all downpipes to the stormwater pipes and then to the legal point of discharge. Now, the series of investigations we carried out were as follows. 1. We contacted a certified roof plumber to assess all connections of the upper story downpipes. 2. Plumber to check if box gutter and downpipes are all clear of leaves and debris. 3. Plumber to check by observation if water is adequately flowing through each upper story downpipe and disperses evenly onto the tiles. The way this is done is by putting a high pressure hose with a known set value through each upper story downpipe. Then the plumber would visually assess if water is actually seeping behind that junction of the wall and the lower roof cavity or not. 4. Plumber to visually assess roof cavity under the location of every upper story spreader pipe. As you can see in this photo below, this is done by actually removing some of the tiles around the location of the load spreader, and then they visually assess the roof cavity for any moisture or condensation. We did not only assess the leak in the garage, but have also suspected that water could be seeping into the roof cavity under other wrongly installed spreaders as well. You know, although the clients may not be aware of any problems as yet, however, it is possible that water could be trapped in other locations within that lower roof cavity. It is only a matter of time before, sealing failure would occur the same way as we saw in the garage. As seen in the plan below, you can see here that there are 5 downpipes in the upper story with wrongly installed spreader pipes. That dashed line here represents the upper story walls, which is entirely offset from the lower walls, as you can see here. So you could imagine that the lower roof is located not only around the garage area, but around the entire residence. The issue in the garage that the ceiling plasterboard cracked because, number one, it was wet due to water seeping in that cavity, but in addition to that, it was carrying a wet insulation as well, and that put an additional load on that. And you can refer back to the video in part 1. We spoke a little bit about that. The clients were very lucky that water was only seeping in the garage area and not anywhere else, like any habitable zone, like the living area or the kitchen area and so forth. So it was important for the plumber. We told the plumber to check it as well, to double check that everything is under control. Number 5, we asked the plumber to do a check on the slope of the gutter box and to ensure that the correct gradient is maintained. This check could be performed by either a laser level or a water level meter. For a 125 by 165 deep box gutter, and then we had as well 5 downpipes that we particularly looked for. We needed a minimum gradient of at least 1 to 500 as per the Australian standards. Of course, we have to do a specific design for that, but if we can get between 1 to 250 or 1 to 500, then it is pretty reasonable value to work with. Number 6, we carried out a soil test, and we wanted to check the soil profile in that steep batter area. As previously mentioned, we need to work out, we actually mentioned that in the previous video, video 1, part 1, so you can please refer back to that. we wanted to work out how the surface water travels downstream on that steep batter. For example, if we find sand layer, which is a highly permeable layer overlying a hard clay or rock as shown in that image below, then it would be probably an easy fix. We can provide an agricultural drain with surrounding, say, 20 millimeter screening all around, and that will help us to collect or trap the water before it reaches the garage wall. And then eventually water, we will slope the agriculture drain towards a legal point of discharge away from the house. On the other hand, if we find an impermeable layer of soil, such as hard clay or rock, then we could easily form a swale or a spoon drain at the bottom of the batter to collect water runoff. And generally the swale drain is about, say, 150 millimeter deep, 200 millimeter wide, and we should be trenching that, not excavating. And that is an important point to remember. We want to make sure we don't undermine any adjoining footing. So we trench that, and then we would grade the swale or spoon drain away from the property to a legal point of discharge. Now, part 3, in the next video, we will discuss the final results and remedial actions required. Now, in this section, just to conclude what we have covered, we covered a list of suspected reasons of why water was seeping through the lower roof garage cavity, as well as to the underside of the garage wall. And we also covered a comprehensive list of testings that were carried out by the roof plumber. In the third and final part, we will go through a series of results of the testing that was completed, and we will also discuss the remedial actions that we provided our clients to stop water from seeping and to also prevent further structural damage. See you in the next video. Thank you.